In the hushed tension of the Washington, D.C. courtroom, 18-year-old York Harlan stood frozen as Judge Harlan. No relation, thank God. Banged the gavel, sentencing him to life without parole for first-degree murder. The words echoed like a death knell, the room spinning with flashes from reporters' cameras, capturing the moment a gay teen's life shattered under the weight of a system that saw him as a monster. But as guards gripped his arms to lead him away, York's mind raced to one desperate lifeline. His estranged father, the U.S. Attorney General, whom he hadn't spoken to in years. York's hands trembled as he was processed into the holding cell, the cold metal of the phone receiver his only connection to the outside world. He dialed the number he'd memorized but never used, his heart pounding with a mix of rage and fear. On the other end, Attorney General Robert Harlan picked up, his voice clipped and professional, until York whispered, "Dad, it's me. They've given me life." Robert froze in his opulent office overlooking the Potomac, the phone slipping slightly in his grip. His son, the one he'd disowned after walking in on him kissing another boy at 16, now begging for help from behind bars. The irony burned. Robert had built his career on tough-on-crime policies, railing against leniency in speeches that won him conservative applause. Yet here was York, accused of killing his boyfriend's abuser in a fit of protective fury, a case riddled with homophobic undertones that the prosecution had exploited masterfully. The story had begun 2 years earlier in the suburbs of Arlington, Virginia, where York met Jamie at a high school LGBTQ support group. Jamie was quiet, with eyes that held shadows from a home where his stepfather's fists spoke louder than words. York, fresh from his own family fallout, found solace in Jamie's gentle smile. Their first date a stolen picnic under cherry blossoms, whispers of dreams shared in the fading light. But love and hiding bred tension. Jamie's bruises grew frequent, his stepfather's rages fueled by slurs hurled at his faggot son. One night it escalated. York arrived at Jamie's house to find the man towering over him, belt in hand, screaming obscenities. In the chaos, York grabbed a kitchen knife, not to attack but to defend as the stepfather lunged. The blade found its mark in self-defense, but the narrative twisted in court. A jealous gay lover snapping in rage, the defense's pleas of battered partner syndrome dismissed as excuses for deviant behavior. Witnesses, neighbors steeped in small-town prejudice, painted York as the aggressor, their testimonies laced with disdain. As Robert listened to York's halting recount over the phone, memories flooded back. He'd been a rising star in the Justice Department when York came out, his reaction explosive. "No son of mine will disgrace this family." Doors slammed. York packed off to live with an aunt, their bond severed like a legal brief. Now, with the press circling like vultures, Robert faced a choice. Uphold the law he'd sworn to protect or bend it for blood. He hung up and paced, his mind a battlefield. Intervening could tank his career, expose him to accusations of nepotism, especially with midterm elections looming. But ignoring York meant condemning his own flesh to rot in prison, a fate that gnawed at the paternal instincts he'd buried under ambition. By morning, he'd called his chief of staff. "Pull the case files." Discreetly, word spread like wildfire through D.C. corridors. Whispers in the DOJ hinted at a review, fueling outrage from victims' rights groups who decried special treatment for the elite. On the flip side, LGBTQ advocates rallied, seeing York's case as emblematic of systemic bias, where straight self-defense claims sailed through but gay ones sank. York, in his cell, replayed the trial's horrors. The prosecutor's sneering questions. "So, you claim this was protection? Or was it a lover's quarrel gone wrong?" Jamie, too broken to testify fully, had crumbled on the stand, his love for York evident but dismissed as unreliable. York's lawyer, overworked and underfunded, couldn't counter the narrative effectively. Now, with his father's shadow looming, York wondered if salvation would come at the cost of his soul, becoming a pawn in political games. Robert met with the judge privately, a move that skirted ethics but wasn't outright illegal. "This boy's my son," he admitted, voice cracking for the first time in decades. The judge, a conservative ally, raised an eyebrow. "And you want a retrial? On what grounds?" Robert cited procedural errors, hidden evidence of the stepfather's abuse history, but deep down it was leverage, his position implying favors owed. As news leaked, protests erupted outside the courthouse. Signs read "Justice for all," not just the connected, and "Free York," end homophobic injustice. Jamie, recovering in hiding, reached out to York via smuggled letters, their words a lifeline. "I never meant for this to happen. You saved me." But guilt weighed on York. Had his impulsiveness doomed them both? Robert's wife, Elena, confronted him at home. "You threw him out, Robert. Now you play hero? For votes or conscience?" Her words stung, revealing cracks in their marriage, strained by his absences and rigid ideals. He snapped back, "He's my son." But doubt crept in. Was this redemption or self-preservation? The retrial motion gained traction, but not without backlash. A whistleblower from the DOJ accused Robert of abuse of power, sparking congressional hearings. York, transferred to a lower security facility, watched the drama unfold on a communal TV, his face pale as pundits debated his fate. "Is the Attorney General above the law?" one anchor asked, polls showing public opinion split along partisan lines. In a rare visit, father and son faced each other through plexiglass. "Why now?" York demanded, eyes blazing. Robert hesitated. "Because I was wrong. About you, about everything." Tears fell, unspoken apologies hanging in the air. But York pushed, "And if I wasn't your son, would you care?" The question lingered, exposing the hypocrisy at the system's core. As the story built toward climax, alliances formed and fractured. LGBTQ organizations lobbied for York's release, while conservative groups painted Robert as a traitor to his base. Jamie emerged publicly, sharing his story in a viral interview, humanizing the tragedy. Yet threats poured in, hate mail, doxing, testing their resolve. Robert testified at the hearing, admitting his past failures as a father, his voice steady but emotional. "I enforced laws that ignored lives like my son's. That's changing today." The room buzzed. Was this a turning point or political theater? York, preparing for the retrial, grappled with forgiveness. In letters to Jamie, he wrote of hope mingled with fear. What if freedom means losing you to the spotlight? Their bond, forged in secrecy, now exposed, strained under scrutiny. The judge reconsidered, granting a new trial amid uproar. But victory felt hollow. York's innocence hung by a thread, dependent on his father's clout. Society's fractures widened, debates on privilege, identity, justice raging online and in streets. The retrial opened in a blaze of media frenzy, the D.C. courthouse besieged by protesters on both sides of the divide. York, shackled but defiant, entered the room, his eyes locking briefly with Jamie's in the gallery, a silent promise amid the chaos. Robert sat stoically in the back, his presence a lightning rod, as the new prosecutor, a sharp, ambitious woman, vowed to uphold the original verdict, labeling any intervention a mockery of justice. Evidence resurfaced with a vengeance. Defense attorneys, bolstered by Robert's behind-the-scenes resources, unearthed police reports buried in bureaucracy. The stepfather's prior assaults, dismissed as domestic disputes, and witness statements recanted under pressure from community leaders wary of airing dirty laundry. York took the stand, his voice steady as he recounted the night. "I didn't go there to kill. I went to save the person I love from a monster." Murmurs rippled through the jury, some nodding, others stone-faced. But the prosecution countered viciously, cross-examining York on his sexuality as if it were a character flaw. "You admit to being in a homosexual relationship with the victim's stepson. Did that cloud your judgment?" The question drew objections, but the damage lingered, feeding into societal biases that viewed gay love as inherently unstable. Jamie, testifying next, broke down describing years of abuse, his hands shaking. "York was my hero that night. Without him, I'd be dead." Their eyes met again, emotions raw, the courtroom a stage for their forbidden bond. Robert watched, guilt twisting like a knife. His career teetered. Headlines screamed, AG's family drama exposes DOJ corruption, with calls for his resignation mounting. At home, Elena packed bags. I can't watch you destroy everything for a redemption arc, Robert. Their argument escalated, voices echoing through the empty house. This is about family, he roared. No, she shot back. It's about power. You always choose power. Outside, the world weighed in. Social media exploded with hashtags like Free Your Carlin and Nepotism Injustice, dividing friends and families. A conservative talk show host ranted, "This gay kid gets a do-over because daddy's in charge? What about real victims?" Meanwhile, progressive activists hailed it as a win against homophobia, organizing vigils where stories of similar injustices poured out. York, in solitary moments, questioned his path. Had he not grabbed that knife, would Jamie still suffer? Letters from supporters flooded in, but so did hate. Fags like you deserve the chair. The isolation gnawed, his mind replaying tender moments with Jamie. Late-night talks under stars, hands intertwined, dreams of a future unmarred by judgment. The trial's turning point came with an expert witness on LGBTQ trauma, explaining how systemic discrimination amplified the stepfather's violence. The jury shifted, one member's tear-streaked face a silent testament. But leaks emerged. Robert had pressured a key investigator, whispers of tampering fueling a special prosecutor's probe. Confronted by his deputy, Robert admitted partial truths. I pulled strings, yes, but for justice, not favoritism. The deputy resigned in protest, the scandal ballooning. York learned of it in a hushed lawyer visit. Your dad's risking everything. Ambivalence surged, gratitude mixed with resentment. He should have been there before, York muttered. Jamie visited, their conversation through glass laced with urgency. If you get out, what then? The world's watching us. York leaned forward. Then we live openly. No more hiding. But fear flickered. Publicity had cost Jamie his job, friends turning away in the glare. As closing arguments loomed, Robert faced congressional grilling. Under oath, he defended, my son was failed by a system I helped build, one blind to prejudice. Boos from the gallery, but some senators nodded, seeing a man evolved. Yet, ethics violations loomed, his legacy in tatters. The verdict hung in balance, tensions peaking. York dreamed of freedom, but nightmares of betrayal haunted him. Society's mirror cracked wider, exposing ugly truths about equality under law. In a sidebar, the judge warned Robert, your involvement taints this. Step back. But Robert refused, his paternal fire ignited. The trial resumed, evidence mounting in York's favor. But at what cost? Protesters clashed outside, police lines straining. Inside, the jury deliberated, hours stretching into days. York paced his cell, heart in throat, while Jamie waited in agony, their love a beacon amid storm. Finally, the bell rang. The courtroom filled, breaths held. The foreman stood, not guilty on all counts. Cheers and jeers erupted, York collapsing in relief, eyes seeking Jamie's. But freedom's price emerged immediately. Robert's office announced his resignation, the scandal too deep. As York walked free, reporters swarmed. Was it worth it? He glanced at his father, approaching warily. Their embrace was tentative, years of pain dissolving in tears. I'm sorry, Robert whispered. York nodded, but wounds lingered. Jamie rushed forward, their reunion public, hands clasping defiantly. Yet shadows loomed, death threats, lost privacy. We made it, Jamie said, voice trembling. Society buzzed with debate. Privilege versus progress. Had justice prevailed, or power perverted it? In the aftermath of the acquittal, York stepped into a world transformed. The DC streets alive with flashing cameras and chanting crowds. Freedom tasted bittersweet. The hug from Jamie outside the courthouse, under a sky heavy with autumn clouds, felt like a fragile victory snatched from chaos. But as they drove away in a tinted SUV arranged by Robert, York sensed the fractures deepening. Their story no longer private, but a national flashpoint for debates on identity, influence, and inequality. Robert's resignation made headlines. His farewell press conference a masterclass in controlled emotion. "I stepped aside to preserve the integrity of the office," he declared, eyes steely. But insiders knew the truth. Investigations into his meddling had forced his hand. Conservative allies abandoned him, branding him a woke traitor, while liberals praised his courageous evolution. At home, Elena unpacked her bags reluctantly, their reconciliation tentative. "You finally chose family," she said, but trust rebuilt frayed. York and Jamie holed up in a safe house on the outskirts of Yorkandria, courtesy of sympathetic DOJ contacts. Nights were spent in quiet talks, hands tracing scars. Physical for Jamie, emotional for York. "Do you regret it?" Jamie asked one evening, curled on the couch. York shook his head. "Saving you? Never. But the spotlight. It's like we're exhibits in a zoo." Their kisses were soft, affirmations of survival, but intimacy carried weight now, every moment potentially scrutinized. Public backlash intensified. A right-wing blogger doxed their location, forcing a midnight relocation. Hate groups organized rallies, signs blaring "No special rights for gays," echoing the homophobia that had fueled the original trial. On the other side, LGBTQ centers invited York to speak, his story inspiring youth but burdening him with unwanted heroism. "I'm not a symbol," he confided to Jamie. "I'm just a guy who loves you." Robert reached out via encrypted calls, his voice laced with regret. "I want to make amends, son." Their first post-trial meeting was at a neutral cafe, tension thick. York arrived guarded. "You saved me, but why did it take a crisis?" Robert sighed. "Pride. Fear of weakness. I built walls to climb the ladder, forgetting what mattered." Tears welled as he admitted lobbying old friends for the acquittal, skirting lines he'd once enforced. "Was it wrong?" York pressed. Robert met his gaze. "For you? No. But for the system. Maybe." The conversation unearthed buried pains. Robert's own closeted youth, suppressed under a military father's expectations. "I projected my shame onto you," he confessed. York softened, seeing vulnerability in the man he'd idolized then hated. But forgiveness wasn't instant. It simmered, tested by ongoing scandals. A congressional subcommittee summoned York to testify on judicial bias against LGBTQ individuals. Nervous but resolute, he spoke. "My case wasn't unique. It's what happens when love is criminalized." The room hushed, cameras capturing his poise. Jamie watched from home, pride swelling, but worry gnawed. Threats escalated. A brick through their window shattering peace. Society's divide widened. Talk shows dissected. Did the Attorney General's son get away with murder? Polls showed 52% believed privilege swayed the outcome, fueling calls for reforms. Activists pushed bills for better protections against hate crimes, using York's story as catalyst, while opponents decried victimhood culture. Jamie struggled most. Therapy sessions revealed deep trauma. The stepfather's death, though justified, haunted him. "I feel guilty for your suffering," he told York. Their bond strained under pressure. Arguments flared over publicity. "We can't hide forever," York urged. Jamie snapped. "Easy for you. You're the hero. I'm the victim everyone pities." Robert intervened subtly, funding counseling. But his presence irked Jamie. "He's the reason you were alone that night." Jealousy simmered, a new conflict bubbling. York mediated, torn between father and lover, his choices defining his path. A bombshell dropped. A leaked memo revealed Robert had quashed similar cases in the past, for straight defendants with connections. Hypocrisy exploded, protesters storming his new private law firm. "Equal justice?" one banner read. Robert defended in interviews. "I evolved. York changed me." But damage stuck, his reputation in ruins. York confronted him. "You preach reform now, but what about before?" Robert bowed his head. "I was blind. Help me fix it." Together, they brainstormed advocacy, York's voice amplifying calls for change. Yet, personal toll mounted. Jamie considered leaving. "This life," It's too much. York pleaded. We're stronger together. Their reconciliation came in a quiet park, vows renewed under falling leaves. No more running. As winter approached, alliances shifted. Elena hosted a family dinner, awkward but healing. Laughter mingled with tears, foundations rebuilding. But external storms raged. A lawsuit from the stepfather's family alleged wrongful death, dragging them back to court. York testified again, resilience tested. Society debated endlessly, progress or perversion of justice. The narrative evolved, York's story a mirror to America's soul. The wrongful death suit hit like a second indictment, the stepfather's relatives portraying him as a flawed but loving man, victimized by vigilante justice. York, subpoenaed to depositions in a sterile D.C. law office, relived the nightmare under glaring lights, his composure cracking as lawyers probed. Did your relationship with Jamie influence your aggression? It was a thinly veiled attack on their love, society's prejudices resurfacing in legal jargon. Jamie attended every session, his support unwavering but strained, dark circles under his eyes from sleepless nights. This never ends, he whispered during breaks, hands squeezing York's. Their bond, once a sanctuary, now battled public dissection. Tabloids speculating on the gay lovers at the heart of the scandal, reducing their emotions to sensationalism. Robert, practicing law privately, offered pro bono defense, his expertise a double-edged sword. I'll fight this, he promised York over coffee. But old wounds reopened. You fight now? But where were you when I needed a dad? Robert nodded gravely. I'm here to stay. Their collaboration forged uneasy trust. Late nights poring over documents revealing the stepfather's hidden rap sheet. Assaults on previous partners, ignored by authorities. Public opinion swung wildly. A Netflix documentary chronicled the saga, interviews with York drawing empathy but also vitriol. Online forums buzzed. He's a murderer who got off because of daddy. Counterthreads defended. Homophobia killed that man, not York. Protests evolved into movements, with York reluctantly becoming a spokesperson at rallies, his voice amplifying. This isn't just my story. It's thousands silenced by bias. Elena emerged as an ally, volunteering at LGBTQ shelters, her transformation mirroring Robert's. Family dinners grew warmer, Jamie included tentatively. You're part of us now, she told him, easing tensions. But Jamie's insecurities festered. They see me as the weak one. York reassured. You're my strength. A key deposition turned explosive. The stepfather's sister admitted under oath to knowing about the abuse but staying silent for family loyalty. The revelation shifted momentum, media headlines shifting to cycle of silence. How abuse thrives in shadows. The suit weakened, settlement talks ensuing. Yet personal crises peaked. Jamie suffered a panic attack during a public event, collapsing amid flashes. Hospitalized briefly, he confessed to York, I can't do this anymore. The world hates us. York held him. They hate what they fear. We'll face it together. Their conversation delved deep, vulnerabilities exposed. Jamie's abandonment issues clashing with York's need for advocacy. Robert faced his own reckoning. A former colleague leaked emails showing his past opposition to gay rights bills. Confronted on a podcast, he owned it. I was wrong, shaped by ignorance. My son's courage taught me. Listeners divided, some forgiving, others condemning. As the suit neared resolution, a twist. Anonymous donors funded the plaintiffs, revealed as conservative PACs aiming to discredit Robert's legacy. This is political warfare, he raged. York saw the bigger picture. It's about silencing us all. Settlement reached out of court. A modest sum paid anonymously, closure bittersweet. York and Jamie escaped to a quiet cabin in the Virginia mountains, reconnecting away from chaos. Walks in crisp air, fireside talks mended strains. Promise me forever, Jamie said. York smiled. Always. Back in D.C., Robert launched a foundation for LGBTQ legal aid, York joining as advisor. Their partnership symbolized redemption, but debates raged. Did blood ties trump equity? Society grappled. Reforms passed in states, inspired by the case, but backlash persisted. York's TED Talk went viral. Love shouldn't be a crime. Applause thundered, but threats continued. Jamie proposed subtly one evening, "Marry me when it's safe." York's yes sealed their future, hope flickering amid shadows. As normalcy crept in, reflections deepened. York wondered, had the system bent for him alone, or sparked change? Robert pondered his fall from grace. A necessary sacrifice? The story's ripples extended, touching lives nationwide, a testament to resilience in adversity. With the lawsuit behind them, York and Jamie settled into a modest apartment in Brooklyn, New York, seeking anonymity in the city's bustle. Mornings brought routine, coffee shared, plans for college, dreams of normalcy. But echoes of the ordeal lingered. York's nightmares of chains, Jamie's flinches at loud voices. Therapy helped, sessions unraveling trauma layer by layer, their love an anchor in recovery. Robert visited monthly, their relationship evolving into cautious friendship. Over dinners, they discussed policy. "We need federal protections," York urged. Robert nodded. "I'm lobbying quietly." Elena joined, her warmth bridging gaps. Family, once fractured, knit slowly, holidays tentative but genuine. Public life called York back. Invitations to panels on criminal justice reform poured in. He accepted selectively, voice steady. "My freedom exposed flaws. Let's fix them." Jamie supported from sidelines, his own healing prioritizing privacy. "You're the fighter," he said proudly. But strains emerged. York's absences sparked arguments. "The cause or us?" Jamie asked. York reassured. "Both. You inspire me." A new controversy ignited when a book deal surfaced. Robert's memoir, detailing the saga. Excerpts leaked. Admissions of ethical lapses, reflections on fatherhood. Critics pounced. Profiting from pain? Supporters praised vulnerability. York read drafts, mixed emotions surging. "It's honest, Dad, but it hurts." Robert revised, including York's input, proceeds donated to advocacy. Society's discourse intensified. The case inspired a Supreme Court review of self-defense laws in hate crime contexts, York's testimony pivotal. "Discrimination turns victims into villains," he argued. Rulings favored progress, but dissents warned of slippery slopes. Personal growth peaked. Jamie pursued art therapy, his paintings capturing their journey. Abstract swirls of pain and hope. Exhibited anonymously, they drew acclaim, empowering him. "This is my voice," he told York. Robert faced a health scare, a mild heart attack from stress. Hospitalized, he confided, "I almost lost everything, but gained you." York stayed by his bed, forgiveness solidifying. "We're family," he said simply. As years blurred, York and Jamie married in a small ceremony, Robert officiating proudly. Vows exchanged under blooming trees, a nod to their first date. Guests included activists, symbolizing broader acceptance. But not all healed seamlessly. Threats persisted. Security became routine. Jamie's family disowned him fully, a final cut. "Their loss," York consoled. The foundation thrived, cases one echoing York's. He mentored youth. "Your story matters." Impact rippled, lives changed. Reflecting, York wrote his own essay. "From cell to spotlight, I learned justice is imperfect, shaped by power and prejudice." Published widely, it sparked forums. Does privilege enable progress? In quiet moments, with Jamie's head on his shoulder, York pondered the cost. Had their love survived because of or despite the drama? Society evolved unevenly, gains in rights but backslides in rhetoric. The Harlan saga remained a touchstone, debated in classrooms, a cautionary tale of conflict and change. As the sun set on another day, York whispered to Jamie, "We made it through hell." Jamie smiled, "And found heaven in each other." Yet questions lingered, fueling endless discourse. Was it right for a powerful parent to bend the rules of justice for their child, even if it exposes and reforms systemic flaws?